Welcome to the channel. Today I'm doing a high miles review on a 2006 BMW X3. So today I'm going to go over some of the problems that this BMW X3 has had over the years, as well as other common problems to watch out for if you're in the market to purchase a used, higher mileage BMW X3. That's right, I'm going to try to sum up common problems on a 2006 BMW with over 215,000 miles. It's going to be a difficult task. I hope you bear with me and understand that I'm not going to be able to cover all of the common problems, just the most important ones if you're in the market to purchase a used one. Since it's a BMW, each and every part on it could be considered a common problem. Let's take a walk around the outside. And as we start looking at the exterior here of this BMW X3, you'll notice that the paint still shines very nicely for being 14 years old. As we move to the front end, you'll see their first common problem. You'll see that the headlight plastic has started to degrade from the sun. Very common on these. Not too bad considering the age of the vehicle, but some I've seen are get pretty bad, and we'll just need a nice headlight restoration if you want them to look like new. The other common problem, and this is across every BMW like ever, is these emblems wear out terribly. This one here is okay. I would assume it's been replaced over the years, but I used to work for a dealer, and we replaced those about, I don't know, 5 a week on cars. They just fade and look terrible after a little bit of time, but they're not difficult to replace. This side looks very nice. No rust or other issues really to speak of whatsoever. There's no paint chipping, peeling, any of those issues at all really on the outside. It looks very much new, and with just a little bit of work could be in that new condition. You can see it does have a little ding there on the hatch, but no fault of BMW's on that. The last important thing to note on the exterior is you can see this is optioned with the panoramic sunroof. I want to bring this up because this is one of the most common issues. There's little plastic legs on the sunroof mechanism that break, and you'll be stuck with a sunroof in the open or closed or whatever position. It makes a nasty noise. Very common problem. The best advice is just do not use the panoramic sunroof. Now it's time to start this up and see what it sounds like after 215,000 miles. As you just heard, the 3-liter engine in this BMW sounds really good. Doesn't have any major ticking or other issues, and it has 225 horsepower and 214 pound-feet of torque, which actually is surprisingly peppy for the size of the car. The most common problem on these engines is oil leaks, specifically from the valve cover gasket. They dry out, they crack. You're going to have that problem on any one of them. If you're looking at a lower mileage one, expect to have that issue. Anywhere that there is a gasket on these engines is kind of a common problem for it to leak oil, but by far the valve cover gaskets are the ones you want to watch out for. The water pump has also been replaced on the engine for this X3. That's a somewhat common problem, as well as the coolant reservoir has a very sensitive sensor in it, so if it gets low at all, it'll pop up with a low coolant light. And this one does use just a little bit of coolant somewhere. It's not in the oil or anything like that, but maybe needing a water pump again before too long. Though it hasn't been an issue on this particular X3, another one you want to look out for is starter issues. The starters do tend to go out on these engines. Now, after the engine, we got to talk about the other mechanical parts of the car. Transmissions on these are fairly reliable. You do want to service them regularly, but I actually really like the way the transmission shifts and everything in this. I wouldn't say it shifts like a new car, but for 215,000 miles, seems to be very reliable. Suspension components do wear out on these, just like any other car. I don't notice that they wear out super prematurely, other than the suspensions are fairly complex on them, so they have a lot more bushings and other things to go wrong. As you saw when we walked around, you can see the tires are starting to wear off on the outer edges and things, and that's just because it's time to start replacing some of the suspension components. But that's really any car with this amount of miles, you're going to be replacing suspension. This X3 is all-wheel drive, and The most common problem with that system is the transfer case actuator. There's a little plastic gear in there. It breaks, very common, not a terribly hard fix or terribly expensive, but something you're definitely going to see. I would say pretty much every X3 has either had that replaced already or is going to need it. The last thing I want to talk about on this BMW mechanically is the rear differential. There is some common problems with them, especially the seals where your axles go in. I know that they have some leaks and different issues there. This one actually clunks. So it definitely has some rear differential issues as well. I don't know if it's just those seals or some other issue internally in the diff, but that's something you'll want to pay attention to if you're in the market for one of these. To sum up, this BMW is still a solid running, reliable car at the moment and really has no signs of letting up. The engine and transmission perform very well. I mentioned the rear diff is having some issues and needs some updated suspension components, but I'm really impressed with the way it drives. These are some of my favorite driving small SUVs. Now let's take a look at the interior. As we take a look on the inside, you'll see that it is actually looking very nice for the age and miles on it. Door panels look pretty much like new. I know on some of them, the sun will fade the top of them. You have to keep them conditioned a little bit. This one looks really good. The driver's seat still looks very good for the age and miles. As you look down through here, you'll notice just a little bit of wear on the bolster and on the seams up front. Otherwise, the seat's in really, really good condition. Passenger seat, same deal. And the leather on the steering wheel has a little bit of wear, but really ultimately in good shape for how much it's been used. As we move to the back here, you'll notice that pretty decent legroom. I mean, it is a small SUV, but you know, you can fit in them there if you're, you know, under 6 feet with really no problem. Door panels in the rear are also in good shape. The rear seat looks like it's pretty much never been sat in. As we look at the dash, you'll see that it has no real sun fading cracks or other issues. It has really held up well. You'll also notice that this does not have iDrive in it, thank goodness. I'll wait till I have a BMW with the iDrive infotainment system to cover all of the problems that has, which should be at least a full-length video in and of itself. One of the things that I do want to mention is all of your digital displays on the instrument cluster or on your radio. Those are a common problem for going out. Like, you'll see just half of the display or no display at all. The digital displays really are not very reliable on these at all. The only real common problem that I've noticed on the interior as far as wear is the rubberized coating that they coat all of the black plastic in. Does wear off over time, and you'll see that pretty much across all the BMW line. As we wrap up the interior, I do want to talk about all the electronics inside. Everything on this BMW works perfectly. However, the window regulators have been replaced, which is a common issue on these as well. The only thing I found that doesn't work perfectly on this BMW is the key fob. These are sealed and they're supposed to be charged, from what I understand, by inserting them into your switch. They were charged that way, so they were made a sealed unit, and so you never had to replace the battery, except for the batteries will not recharge after 14 years. So you'll have to get a new key fob, or you can split them open, find a video online, and replace the battery yourself. Otherwise, radio, cruise, door locks, power seats, all of those things work just as they're intended to, and have really held up pretty well over time. The only other thing I would just want to reiterate is the sunroof. Don't open that ever for any reason. Turn signal stock still works like new. I don't think it's ever been used. So now we're coming towards the end of the review, and it's time to decide if this BMW X3 is a buy or a bust. These only cost a few $1,000s now and are very prevalent on Facebook, Marketplace, and other places to pick up really, really cheap. They do offer a lot for your money, but honestly, I really cannot recommend them. I'm going to call it a bust. They just have a lot of common problems across all BMWs. It's not specifically this one. Any German luxury car is going to have most likely a lot of problems. And if you're not a mechanic or someone really familiar with them, I can't recommend them. Definitely not past 100,000 miles. While the driving experience is great, you just have to be ready to expect a lot of expensive repair bills. Like I said, pretty much everything you can imagine, and some things you can't imagine, could be a problem on these cars. As always, have a trusted mechanic check out any used car you're going to buy. Make sure that they see that it's roadworthy and you're not going to have any major problems right away. Don't just take my word for it in a review. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. Love to hear your comments down below. Have a great day.